So we have in the United States a set of racial identities: black, white, Asian, Native American or Indian, and so on. These are labels for kinds of people, and for some people, they're important. What makes them racial labels, I think, is that they were historically believed to be based on people's, as it were, biological properties. Now, most people now who think about this are likely to be something like what they call social constructionists about race. They're likely to think that, in fact, how people are assigned to racial categories is not just a matter of not just a matter of biology, or perhaps even not a matter of biology at all. Again, my favorite example here would be Walter White, who was called White, Mr. White, but he was an African American, and he was head of the NAACP, and he was blonde and blue-eyed, as his autobiography begins. My skin is white, my eyes are blue, and I am a Negro. And that's, in the United States, that makes sense. That's a social fact. He was an African American. He was arguably the leading African American political activist of his day. But he wouldn't have been black in lots of other places, because different social realities produce different configurations of these so-called racial identities. One of the interesting things about the present, I think, is that whereas in the United States, racial identities, I think, were very important in shaping people's life chances through much of our history, in part because whether you were black or not affected whether you could be enslaved until the Civil War. Now there are people for whom their racial identities are more lightly held, less central, I think, to who they think they are. And also there are people who don't really feel they fit in the system of American racial identities at all, perhaps because they have many ancestors from many places, or perhaps because they come from a place like Australia. They're an Aboriginal from Australia who, as it were, look black to Americans, but have no particular connection with Africa or African descent. So the people who believe in biological races have a simple story about what races are. They're just they're the people who have things in common because their ancestors came from either Africa or Europe or Asia or the Americas, or the South Pacific. But that turns out not to produce a very interesting way of classifying people, because lots and lots of people don't fit into that category, those categories. And so we're left with just the reality that in our society we do assign people these labels, and they mean something to lots of people, though, as I say, I think they are increasingly less important